Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Perfect Talk with Dr. Hlami. Today we have yet another exciting episode where we're talking perfect opportunities and we bridge the knowledge gap in the field of agriculture. Let me just remind you again that the purpose of the show is to provide a platform where demand and supply of information can actually meet. But most importantly, we want to demystify the fact that people think agriculture equates to primary production. PERFECT is an acronym for policies, education, research, farming and finance, extension and advisory services, communications, as well as the issues of trade and technologies. These offer a perfect opportunity for you to enter into the agricultural space. As we always say, we are bridging the knowledge gap within this platform. Today we are talking perfect communications. Just for you to think that any place where there are more than one person, two people, three or four, communication becomes a very critical aspect. Communication is also a very important aspect within the agricultural sector. Just to think that you have different stakeholders, they think differently, they have to communicate and find each other. That offers another opportunity for people who have studied communication to play a role in that space. I, for one, am one of them. I have taught communications for development, but also communication is a very big aspect of what I do. I earn my living through facilitation of multi-stakeholder engagements. I facilitate high-level policy dialogues. I facilitate strategic planning sessions within the agricultural sector, but also work with scientists to communicate science. But ladies and gentlemen, it's not about me. It's not about what I do in the sector, because I have a very dynamic person who is joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you Joy Owango, all the way from Nairobi, Kenya. Joy, welcome to the Perfect Talk with Dr. Hlami.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, I met Joy probably almost 10 years now.
Yeah, 10 years
Yeah,
ago.
around 10 years. I used to work for an organization called Fanapan.
Yeah.
What I was doing there, I was knowledge management manager, and I was managing, this, project where communication was very key. And I worked very closely with Joy, who we contracted, and she came and she was doing training on how people can communicate science. It was such an exciting moment to see the energy from this young lady who was taking the field of agriculture by storm through a different pathway. Joy, who are you? Who is Joy Owango?
Okay. I'm a former journalist who got
Okay.
interested in science communication by default
Okay.
when I found myself setting up a communications office
Mm-hmm.
for a biosafety and biotechnology program in
Okay.
the University of Nairobi,
Yes.
which was a partnership with three East African universities
Yes.
and two universities in Europe. And the first thing I noted was that the biosafety scientists could not even talk to the biotechnology scientists, and they were in the same program.
Thank
And
you.
that's when I realized there is a problem on dissemination of research and research output. And in the beginning, what I had in mind was how could scientists start learning how to communicate amongst themselves? This was way before even we could think of guiding scientists on how to communicate with non-scientists as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that because I've been in that space.
Right.
One thing that I have learned, or one thing that I have observed, is that scientists are so bad in communicating what they do to somebody who's not a scientist.
Yeah.
Because remember how scientists are trained, especially your hardcore scientists. You know how they communicate, those things with, some nopkiris and I don't know, you know, only a scientist will understand what they say. But if you are not a scientist in that field, you cannot communicate. And I see more and more the pressure for science to take, their research and put it into use, which means they have to communicate their research outcomes with people who are not scientists, and that needs different skills. And that is where you have seen your niche, right?
Yes, and you see, the thing is, it's when you're looking at scientists, it's two-pronged when it comes to the communication bit. It is guiding them on producing good quality research output. That's where the scholarly communication comes in. So how do you write good quality papers, understanding the whole academic publishing process. Then once you have that good quality research output, learning how to communicate your work to non-scientists and increasing your research visibility. So I am not a scientist per se, but I support research processes. So you need sometimes researchers need somebody from outside to help them see and do what is necessary for them to increase their visibility. And as you said, there's a huge demand for research into use. So if there's a demand for research into use, the primary audience will be non-scientific, will be non-scientists. So what does that mean for you? It means that you need to learn to, as a scientist, you need to learn how to even explain research processes. You need to learn to articulate those research processes, learn to use analogies. The audience, I always tell the people we work with or the scientists we train that the audience is not stupid. Like for example, an audience understands what GMO is, the genetic modified organisms. They understand it. They understand that concept, but they might not necessarily understand the nitty-gritty of the process, but they understand the umbrella aspect of it. So they are not stupid. They just need a better way of understanding your work. And today, what is so obvious is that we need people need access. I mean, scientists need to be accessible to their audience. And if they are not accessible to their audience, it means that their work is moot. Even before funders say that, oh yes, a certain percentage of our funding needs to go into science communication. Even before the funder says that, as a scientist needs to have the mentality whereby that he needs to be accessible to his audience.
No, I mean, you are actually saying something very valuable. I remember, I think 2015, between 2015 and 2017, I was involved in a very interesting, research, project. So what happened there, it was a modeling, project where you had, crop modelers and you had, economic modelers and all that working together in the context of climate change. First part of the research went, and the donor, the funder, came and said, you have generated, valuable results. But if if you cannot put it into use, if you cannot take these results to people who need it the most, we're not going to fund the next session. So what they did, they had to create what they called a stakeholder engagement unit. I was one of them working with the Southern Africa team. My role there was to sit, with different modelers, crop, climate, and animal, although they are doing modeling because they are working from different angles. The language they use, even for themselves, it's different. So my role there, I had to sit, try to understand what they are talking about, and try to make sense for the different audience. And that is why we have a space to innovate. We'll bring theater, and, to communicate and all that. But one thing that I found very interesting is when we had a multi-stakeholder workshop and theater and all that, and some people said it took theater for us to understand what the researchers were telling us for over 3 years. Just to simplify that. Is that these are the things that you are dealing with?
Yes, absolutely. And what I like that is now happening globally and is also trickling down to the continent is
Yes.
competitions that are helping scientists all the way from university level on how to communicate their work. Like there's this major event known as a 3-minute thesis where
Okay.
postgraduate students have to make an audience understand what their thesis is about and their research is about in 3 minutes. And then there is this organization known as Falling Walls Foundation
Yes.
that now encourages researchers to talk about their innovations in 3 minutes. I keep on telling scientists this is an exercise in science communication because
Yes.
right now
Hmm.
funding is reducing on for research. So where are we
Yes.
getting funding from? We're getting it from industry.
Yes.
And if you're getting it from industry, you really need to know how to talk about your work. If you're
Exactly.
not able to express your work, if you're not
Hmm.
able to make us understand why you did it, why was it important
Hmm.
for you to get into that research area, the process of you doing it and what you found out,
Yes.
it's moot. It's moot. It's becoming very competitive right now for researchers.
Yes, and explaining that, and I think researchers need to understand that explaining that you need different skills than when you're explaining it to, when you are presenting a paper to, some, conference, because you'll be talking
Absolutely.
about your research methodology. But
Yes.
when you talk to non-science community, how
It
you
is
talk
how
about
I
your
did it.
research methodology is completely different.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
even I always tell scientists, I don't want to hear you saying my research methodology. No, it's how I did it
Did it.
because that
Thank
is
you.
the methodology itself.
Thank you.
So it is an issue of semantics. And I
Yes.
always tell scientists that look, the fact that you're doing this research, it means that you're brilliant.
Okay.
You've already started the process of communication.
Yes.
Just look at it and change the wording. It's all about semantics.
Okay.
It's all about semantics.
Yes.
And they're slowly warming up to it because also now there are metrics that measure
Yes.
science communication output. How many times have you been tweeted? How many blogs came out of your
Okay.
work?
Okay.
Or yes, there are metrics to measure that. Were there policy documents
Yes.
produced out of your research output? And when you tell a researcher, listen, there are research metrics to measure your science communication output, and funders are
Yes.
looking at it,
Yes.
now they wake up because they realize, hold on top of citation,
Yes.
there's another metric that exists to
Okay.
measure my science communication output.
Wow.
And this is known as alt metrics.
Okay, I'm
So
learning. I'm
things are
learning. I'm
changing.
learning. So what you are saying is that social media, because you talk about tweeting and all that, social
Yeah.
media, because I know, especially the older generation, when you talk about social media, they go like, they are very skeptical about it. But
Right.
one more and more, what we see is that social media becomes a huge communication outlet, not only for science, but
Absolutely.
also for different organizations, funding opportunities and opportunities.
Absolutely.
Yes. So it's a matter of how
Absolutely.
do you take advantage of the social media for to do what is positive. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And what funders are doing, they are
Mhm.
connecting the funding that
Yes.
they've given a researcher to the
Yes.
research output to
Yes.
the science communication output
I see.
because they know there are metrics to measure each step. So I
Okay.
gave you funding. I expected
Yes.
you to write papers. I expected you to
Yes.
go to conferences. I
Yes.
want to see citation coming out of this. I also
Yes.
need to see what policy documents produced out of it. Did
Yes.
people talk about it? Was it on Twitter? Was it on Facebook? Were there
Mm.
blogs on it? The
Okay.
fact that they can measure that entire thread, it
Yes.
means that scientists, gone are the days when scientists would do their research and say, oh, well, I've written a paper. No, it goes
Okay.
to who else talks about it? Who knows
Yes.
about your work?
So
Yeah.
it shouldn't end on the shelf. It shouldn't end on the
No,
shelf.
no,
Okay.
no, no, no,
I
no.
hear you.
And no, and you see, and the beauty about this whole process is that now we are seeing huge trends
Yes.
in higher education and research because the fact that people are demanding access to knowledge, it
Yes.
means scientists are under pressure to have access to knowledge. So
Yes.
there's this whole growth of open access and open
Yes.
science that we need access to data to conduct good quality research so that our work can also be seen. You
Okay.
see? Yeah. So it's such
You
a
don't,
ripple effect.
yes, you don't stop, to surprise me. When I met here almost, 10 years, ago, you were this energetic person. And now I'm actually looking at you growing from strength to strength.
Thank
Now
you.
you
Thank you.
have been, okay, maybe tell me more about, the TCC, yeah, your company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the Training Center in Communication is in parent partnership with the University of Nairobi. So
Okay.
15 years ago, we
Woo,
approached yes, the University of Nairobi,
15.
which is the leading
Okay.
university in East and Central Africa.
Yes.
So we approached them,
Mm-hmm.
and by then the Vice Chancellor, who is the current Minister of Education for Kenya, we
Okay.
approached him with the idea that, listen, we need to help scientists communicate their work. And let me
Mhm.
make this very clear. It's not that universities do not have these systems in place.
Yes.
It's that the administrative dynamics within universities sometimes make it challenging to
Yes.
support the entire community. Okay,
Exactly.
so
Yes.
the need for support
Mm-hmm.
from outside support is also necessary. So
Yes.
they're not weak in any way. They're just working with various partners to just still support the entire
Yes.
higher education sector.
I hear
So
you.
we approached them, and that we started training the scientists. Then
Mm-hmm.
out of that, we realized that, hold on, by the time you're telling a research scientist that you need to produce good quality papers and you don't have access to good resources, it's still moot. So we started looking for global partners to work with,
Okay.
and out of that, we started working with some of the global partners such that we are providing open science solutions to the researchers,
Okay.
institutes,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
governments,
Yes.
so that they can help in improving the research output.
Yes.
Then when you're now talking to a research institute, a university, or even a government, and you tell them, listen,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot now tell me you cannot produce good quality research output because you have some foundation to help you
Yes.
produce good quality output. You have
Yes.
data, all
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So now, if you have data and you're producing good quality output, the next step is learning how to communicate to non-scientists,
Thank
learning how
you.
to manage that research effectively,
Yes.
learning how to increase your research visibility.
Yes.
Because when you look at it, it is the entire research life cycle of a
Yes.
scientist. It
Yes.
is from research idea to
Mm-hmm.
communication of that work.
Okay.
So that is what we've been doing. And we've won a series of awards
Yes, I wanted to
because
actually
of
come
this.
to that because what you are doing is very, very innovative. What I'm
Yeah.
picking here, you started as a journalist.
Yes.
Probably when you were doing your journalism, degree and whatever, you never anticipated
No,
that you could use the journalism within the agriculture, global, space and all that. You didn't see that
no,
coming. But
I never saw
because,
that coming.
yes, but because you are an innovative person, you see an opportunity where it is and you take it and run with it. And your journalism qualifications come in handy, and you are using it in a different, a space. And this is
Yeah,
exactly what I'm advocating for, to say, you might
right.
have studied journalism, but you could have a very big role to play within the agricultural sector, the
Oh,
agriculture
absolutely.
sector and all that.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
yes, you have won numerous awards. Tell me about it. I picked, the Invest to Impact Award, which you won last year. Tell me
Yes.
about it.
So, oh wow, this we competed against 800 companies in
Okay.
5 East African countries. So
Wow.
even winning it shocked me.
Okay. Okay.
Winning it shocked me.
Yes.
And what they looked at was the aspect that we were sustainable over the 15 years. We are
Yes.
a not-for-profit organization, but we
Okay.
used a business model. So it's a social entrepreneurship model, which
Okay.
made us successful and
And
sustainable.
what does that mean? What does that mean? You are a not-for-profit, but you have, this social,
Yes.
okay. What does that mean in
So it
practical
means that
terms?
we are not, even though we are not for profit, we are not relying heavily on funding to
Okay.
support us. So
Okay.
funding through projects is one of the revenue streams. So we
Yes.
had to think like a business for
Okay.
us to be sustainable,
Thank
because
you.
projects like this have existed. Yes, they have existed, but then the challenge is that they collapsed when the funding ended because they were unique to the
I hear
funded
you.
project.
I hear you.
Okay.
I hear you.
And so the Best to Impact Award was based on sustainability of
Yes.
the of a company or an organization,
Yes.
but also they were looking at private-public partnerships, and that's where
Yes.
we come in very strongly.
Yes.
The key to our survival has been SDG 17,
Ooh,
partnerships.
partnership. Talking about
Partnerships.
SD.
Other than SDG 4 on quality education, it's
Yes.
partnerships. We wouldn't
Okay.
have come this far without University of Nairobi and
Yes.
all the partners that
Yes.
we've managed to work with. Yeah.
Yes. So for our
So
listeners there who do not know what SDG is, that is Sustainable Development Goal. And in this platform, we're gonna be talking about it when we talk policies in the later stage. Yeah.
yeah.
So but what other awards other than the
Okay.
Index to
Okay. So
Intex?
in 2015, we got nominated for the King Baudin award,
Okay.
fellowship award.
Yes.
And we didn't think much about it because we were just trying. And when we even got nominated for it, were pleasantly surprised because that one is based in Belgium.
Okay.
And then this year, we won an award of the African Excellence. It's known as the African Excellence Awards. And it
Wow.
was focusing on higher education communication.
I
And
feel
this is
you.
based in the UK. So in the
Wow.
height of the chaos that is 2020, there's an
Yes.
organization in the UK that actually saw the activities we are doing. And what brought that to fore is that when all hell broke loose
Yes.
in Kenya, that is in March
Yes.
13th, when we had the
Yes.
first case of COVID-19, we were in the process of transitioning online. So
Yes.
one of the things we did was that all the major research capacity activities, we
Yes.
decided to host them as monthly webinars.
Wow.
Because one of the
Wow.
biggest challenges researchers from the Global South have is
Mhm.
access to some of these big conferences where you can be a
Hey.
contributor to the conversations regarding higher education, research
Yes.
output, and
Yes.
research visibility. It's
Okay.
expensive to go to Europe or the US. And for the
Yes.
first time, COVID-19 gave us an opportunity to have these conversations online. So we started
Okay.
hosting monthly research capacity webinars. And I
Yes.
assure you, at some point, we had at least 800 registered. It was
Wow.
so overwhelming. So we
Wow.
started
Wow.
hosting them live via
Yes.
Facebook. And so I think they saw these activities, and we are booked out up to December.
Yes.
So they saw these activities, no, not up to December, up to now next year, because we have
Yes.
countries pre-booking to
Yes.
work with them
I can
next year.
imagine. I can
Yeah,
imagine.
so
Yes.
because of that, we got the award. So it was quite humbling and exciting at the same time, because
Mm-hmm.
we did the research capacity webinars out of a need and out of frustration. And
Yes.
little did we know that it was going to be a stepping stone in us increasing
Exactly.
our visibility, but
Wow.
also the visibility of the research scientists we kept on inviting. Because for all of
Okay.
them,
Yes.
going back to this interview,
Mm-hmm.
I kept on telling them, this is an exercise in science communication. You're talking
Yes.
about your work, and
Yes.
people need to understand you. You
Yes.
have 10 minutes.
Yes.
People need to understand you.
Yes.
And it is very interactive online. So that is the second award we won, the African
Okay.
Excellence Award.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is so exciting.
Thank
I
you.
mean, those young people, not even young people, those institutions that are interested, in education, communicating science, and all that. Here's a young lady, from Kenya who saw a niche within, the sector and
Yeah.
took her journalism qualifications or expertise and enter into that space. If
Mm.
people are listening and people want to get in touch with Joy, how do they get you?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They can get in touch with me via Twitter.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
My Twitter handle is at Joy Owango. You
Mm-hmm.
can get in touch with me on Facebook.
Okay.
The Facebook handle is at Joy Owango. You
Yes.
can get in touch with me also on LinkedIn. It's still Joy Owango.
Joy
If
Owango,
you
very
want to get
simple. Yeah.
very simple, not
Mm-hmm.
complicated. If you
Yes.
want to get more about our organization,
Mm-hmm.
TCC Africa,
Mm-hmm.
at Twitter, TCC Africa.
Yes.
Um, if you go to LinkedIn and Facebook, it is Training Center in Communication, and it will
Yes.
just pop up.
Yes.
Or they can go to our website,
Mm-hmm.
that is tcc-africa.org,
Yes.
and they'll be
Okay.
able to get all this information. And
Okay.
for somebody who is doing a course in journalism and you find yourself working with scientists, I'll tell you what my late professor told me. The
Mm-hmm.
late David Kamau told
Mm-hmm.
me that he was my professor in my media studies professor.
Yes,
He
yes,
told me, remember, journalism and communication is a foundation course.
yes.
And it
Okay.
is true. It is a foundation course, and it
Yes.
can take you into literally any career,
Anywhere. Yes.
anywhere. So if you want to
Thank
do
you.
corporate communication, you need a background in journalism. If you want to do science
Yes.
communication, you need a background in journalism.
Yes. Yes.
Literally anywhere.
Yeah.
So look at it as a foundation course and see how adaptable you are to where you want to get into.
Exactly.
That
No,
is all I can say in regards to
yes.
that. Yeah.
And this is very, very true because I, for one, never studied, journalism, but I came into the agricultural sector through my
Right.
communication skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a PhD in, facilitation of systemic change, and you cannot
Yeah.
facilitate if you don't have communication skills. And I
That's
think
true.
one thing that makes me thrive in the agricultural sector, it's not through the farming skills because I'm so bad in that, but it
Oh
is
yeah,
in the
I'm a horrible farmer.
yes, but it is in the people skills where
Yes,
communication it's very core and so
absolutely.
versatile because it is a cross-cutting function. If you
Yes,
take me
yes,
and put me in the health sector, I will still
yes,
flourish because there are people there. If you take
yes,
me and put me in the transport sector, as long as there are people, I flourish because these are cross-cutting skills. And probably with
yes,
you as well, this that's how it helps you.
yes. That's
Okay.
how it helps because it is cross-cutting. It's
Mhm.
just a foundational course that can be adaptable in literally any sector. And
Yes.
that is what people need to understand.
Okay.
And once you get the basic concepts of that, and you
Mhm.
also need to understand that the primary route of communication, regardless of what sector you're in, is access to your audience. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Joy, I'm looking at my time. It's
No
actually
worries.
running and whatever. I know my audience might want you to come back again. And when
Yes,
people would like you to come and provide, trainings and, what, are you available to do that? So
absolutely.
people
We are
can,
available.
okay,
Yes, and we
okay,
even have a training next month,
yes,
the 26th to 28th, and that is on science communication and engagement. So
okay,
we have that, and it's online.
okay.
So they're more than ready to sign up.
So people, you'll be seeing, your website and people will signing up because what I've noticed when I joy is that people are hungry for knowledge. People
That
are
is true.
hungry for information.
A lot has
People are
happened in the last
hungry.
5 years. There's a demand for it. There's a huge demand
Exactly.
for access
So
to information and knowledge. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm so
Mm.
excited, for you and your achievements, but also
Thank you.
for you allowing yourself to come and share your information and your knowledge in the platform.
Thank
Um,
you.
so thank you very much, and we will be sending people to your website so that
Thank
they
you.
actually get inspired, but really learn more from what you are doing.
Thank
Ladies
you.
and
Thank
gentlemen,
you.
this is what we have time for today in the Perfect Talk with Dr. Hlami. Today we're talking perfect communications. You heard for yourself and you know where to find me. You can subscribe, follow me on social media. We will be bringing you more and more exciting, people who will change your attitude about agriculture, who will give you practical examples of how they've made it in the agricultural sector beyond just farming and how you can harness your skills and really learn and play a role within this agricultural sector. Thank you very much, ladies